September 6th meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council will now come to order. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prior to the start of each City Council meeting, we have an opportunity for residents to address the Council on issues related to city business. This portion of the meeting is from approximately 6:30 to 7:55. And if you are interested in addressing us at that time and you want to be sure that you're on the agenda, please call the City Manager's office at 949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, the subject matter you wish to discuss, and your phone number. This portion of the meeting is not recorded or televised. Again, if you have any questions on that, contact the City Manager's office. We'll start tonight with the HRA meeting. I'd like to call that meeting to order. Do we need to do a roll call? Mr. Rosso? Yes. Do we need to do a roll call? Yes. Okay.
Here.
Councilmember Butcher-Wilkstrom?
Here.
Councilmember Case?
Here.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here.
Chair Lucan?
Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the HRA meeting, which was held on July 19th?
Move approval.
Second.
Any items to correct? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Next item is adopting a resolution to approve the proposed 2017 property tax levy to be $200,000 and accept proposed 2017 budget of $200,000 for the HRA. Not for the whole city.
Not for the whole city, commissioners. No, that comes later in the meeting. But this is the meeting in September that we need to adopt a preliminary budget and levy for both the HRA and the city. This is the HRA budget and levy separate from the city levy, and that levy is proposed to be $200,000 once again. It's been at that dollar amount for quite a number of years, and it's been able to provide for redevelopment projects and also many of our housing projects in the community. So we feel very comfortable setting this levy once again at $200,000. The city actually has, there's a ceiling on how much can be levied by an HRA that wouldn't necessarily apply to a city when levy limits are not in place. And our limit would actually be $1.7 million, but we are just choosing and needing $200,000 for 2017.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Getchell?
I do have one. Not for the amount for this year, but this has been in place for at least 10 years, perhaps longer. And I was wondering if we shouldn't be looking into raising it, 10% or something.
Commissioner Nelson, that's something that I think you've mentioned in the past too, and we are going to monitor that. I think you'll see in the presentation later that we're making an adjustment to our capital improvement levy. We think it's time to do that. We don't think we need to do that with the HRA levy at this time, but as redevelopment continues to occur, it might be something we'll need to look at in the future.
And costs for redevelopment have also increased in the last 10 years, so I assume we're not helping as many projects, perhaps, as we might have 10 years ago.
So most of the funds have been used on housing projects, and we do get some dollars through the CDBG program in the federal government. So it isn't as if projects haven't received money. It's just that we haven't had specific projects in the last few years.
So the money has not been used, some of it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we do carry a fund balance over. It's just that the authorized use of the funds could be for redevelopment. We just have not needed to do a specific redevelopment project recently. We can if the need arises.
Yeah, I think we'd want to make the business case if we were to raise it, and I think it likely could be made, but I'd want to see, okay, what will this go for and why now? rather than, and I think it's much longer than 10 years. It feels like it's early
Forever.
01, 02 something.
I've been on the council for 12 years, and I know it hasn't changed in that 12
Right.
years.
And
We
so
have
Only been on for 10 years.
So the idea that it just simply should, I'm not saying you're saying this,
No.
the idea that it simply should increase just because we haven't isn't enough for me just to increase it, but I do think there's a case to be made that if indeed with our aging city and redevelopment, we may want to look at this fund for ways to keep our city revitalized. But anyway, that business case probably needs to be made for this.
And we're
we
not
have-
talking 1.7 million or anything
Right.
close to that either.
No,
I've discussed the possibility of raising it in the past.
We
I
have
do
many
remember.
times, yeah.
All right, is there a motion?
Sure. I move to adopt the resolution to approve the proposed 2017 property tax levy to be $200,000 and accept the proposed 2017 budget of $200,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the HRA?
Aye.
The motion passes. The first item we have in our regular council meeting tonight, then, is a proclamation for the Eden Prairie Women of Today. We have a number of wonderful community organizations and service organizations here in Eden Prairie, and Eden Prairie Women of Today is one of those, and they've greatly benefited and been helpers to a lot of projects within the city. They've helped a lot with the foundation. I think maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you raised funds for a fire. What was that called? The firehouse. What, George? What was that called?
The book reading? No.
No, we had actual building on wheels. Oh, yeah, the safety awareness. Yes, and that was the Women of Today. So we thank them for all that they've done in the community. And I'm going to read something, and then we'll hear from some of the members. Whereas Minnesota Women of Today set aside the week of September 18th through 24th, 2016 to recognize the many community service activities of dedicated Women of Today chapters across the state and throughout the country. And whereas Eden Prairie Women of Today is one of the 63 chapters in Minnesota, and whereas Eden Prairie Women of Today is dedicated to actively promoting and supporting public awareness and service programs of organizations and foundations such as the Eden Prairie Community Foundation, People Reaching Out to People, Shreya R. Dixit Memorial Foundation, Project Linus, Breaking Free, the Bridge for Youth Homeless Shelter, and more, as well as financially supporting local area youth initiatives, scholarships, and other charitable causes. And whereas Eden Prairie Women of Today provides personal enrichment and leadership training opportunities for members of all ages, and whereas Eden Prairie Women of Today has been active for 13 years, while Minnesota Women of Today has been a vital part of the state for the past 66 years, and whereas Women of Today is united by our friendship and belief in the future, now therefore the City Council of the City of Eden Prairie does hereby proclaim the week of September 18th, 2016 as Women of Today Week in the City of Eden Prairie. So congratulations. And I think we're going to hear from some of the women of today, and if you want to come up to the podium and maybe just say your name, and I will come down with the proclamation and we can get a quick photo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council member. Eden Prairie Women of Today are very honored, and thank you so much for the proclamation. Thank you wholeheartedly. I guess to summarize, we would like to share you our creed, what Eden Prairie or Women of Today is all about in the community, and how it impacts us personally as members. We, the women of today, are service, growth, and fellowship. We believe that through us, great lessons can be learned, worthy deeds performed, and a hand fellowship extended to millions of women everywhere. May we leave the world a better place because we live and serve within it. Thank you again, City Council members and Madam Mayor.
Nice picture.
Again, thank you for all you do in the community. You help make it a great place to live. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda and other items of business?
Move approval?
Second?
Any items to add or omit? Hearing none, all in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
The motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the City Council workshop held Tuesday, August 16th?
Move approval.
Second.
Any items to correct? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes from the City Council meeting held that same date, August 16th?
Move approval.
Second?
Any items to correct there? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any item to pull for discussion or any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We have a number of public hearings related to an ordinance changing the zoning district from rural to public in school areas. Mr. Getchell. Oh, Mr. Rosso, did you have something?
Mr. Getchell
Okay.
should go first.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, these are all related to a similar item. And you can, as you mentioned, there are 5 public hearings, but I'm going to give an overview of the entire topic that's going to cover all 5 public hearings, and the city attorney tells me that we could open one hearing for all of the topics instead of opening 5 separate public hearings, unless you've changed your mind.
In the last 30 seconds, no.
So we
Just
will,
making sure, because you had your blue light on, so
we
I don't
will
know.
open one public hearing and close one public hearing, and then do you want 5 separate motions?
No, I think the idea is that you can open all of the public hearings at one time.
Okay.
So open public hearings for A, B, C, E, and F.
That's right. Yeah.
And then take the whatever comment on all of them, and then have a separate motion, though, to approve each ordinance.
Okay.
One public hearing, separate motions. And maybe just to provide a little bit of background, you may recall from the last council meeting, we had an ordinance change. We had a first reading of an ordinance change, and this follows that change in the code that prior to 2010, we had the term public facilities that was a permitted use in all zoning districts. At that time, we then used the word public infrastructure instead of public facilities, and through that process created many of these schools as non-conforming uses. So at the last council meeting, you made an adjustment to the city code in saying that schools are a permitted use in a public district. So we fixed that. The action tonight is to go through each one of these: Cedar Ridge Elementary, Oak Point Elementary, Eden Lake Elementary, Forest Hills Elementary, and Hennepin Technical College, and then rezone all them from rural to public, and then they will all be conforming. So it is a housekeeping item. It looks like a lot of different items, but they all kind of serve the same purpose. And the Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of all these with the exception of Hennepin Technical College. And the reason for that nay vote is I believe that motion was tied to a variance with that project, that I think one commissioner had a concern with the variance, but not a concern with the change in zoning. And that was done at the August 8th Planning Commission meeting.
All right. Mr. Case.
Just a quick question, Mr. Rosso, really. Each of the motions only distinguish the school by the acreage, nothing else. Is that okay? It just seems like there ought to be something else in the motion that says it's for a particular parcel. They're not even identified by property ID or anything.
Well, you are making a motion to approve an ordinance. The ordinance has the specific legal description of each parcel.
Just doesn't distinguish
not
the
listed
ordinance
in
name
them.
or number or anything on any of the motions. They're all identical except for the acreage.
That's right, but each ordinance has a separate number.
I understand that, but it's
And
not
so
in the
you're
motion.
you're approving, well, the numbers are not assigned until after you take your action, because the city clerk does not like to have a number that has never been used, wants them consecutive.
Oh, sure.
So the record, I think, will be
Makes sense.
clear that you're approving each one of these ordinances. The number will be put on right after you
No, it's fine.
approve
I believe you
them all.
told
It just
me once-
doesn't say the name of the school.
Yeah, Ron
I
wants to
understand
say
that.
the name of the
You,
school.
you can say
But-
the name.
I'll say it too.
Mr. Rosso once told me never argue with the city attorney, so I understand that. That's a quote unquote. No, I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure that it just doesn't say anything in there except the acreage. I'm fine. We're good.
Okay.
You can say.
So we have zoning district changes for Cedar Ridge Elementary School, Oak Point Elementary School, Eden Lake Elementary School, Forest Hills Elementary School, and Hennepin Technical College. And I will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to comment on this ordinance change? Okay. Seeing none, do we have a motion for the?
You want to close the public hearing
Yes,
first in general,
well,
or all of them?
I think we close it
We'll
for
just
each
go
of them.
down.
I
Okay.
think we need to close the public hearings.
Yep. I would move to close the public hearing and approve the first reading of an ordinance for a zoning district change from rural district R to public district PUB on 23.19 acres for Cedar Ridge Elementary School.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sherry?
Yeah, sure. So I move to close the, no,
No, you have to still move the.
okay, I move to close the public hearing and approve first reading of the ordinance for zoning district change from rural district R to public district PUB on 23.05 acres, and that is Oak Point Elementary.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I would move to close the public hearing and approve the first reading of the ordinance for zoning district change from rural district R to public district PUB on 13.38 acres for Eden Lake Elementary School.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
I'd like to move to close the public hearing and approve the first reading on the ordinance for zoning district change from rural district R to public district PUB on 2.97 acres for Forest Hills Elementary School.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Aho, do you want to do the last one?
Sure. I would move to close the public hearing and approve the first reading for the ordinance of zoning district change from rural district R to public district PUB on 104.38 acres for Hennepin Technical College.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. The next item is payment of claims. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any items to question?
No.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Aho,
Aye.
Councilmember Butcher Wickstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Case,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Terrell-Lukens.
Aye. Okay, the next item is a report of the city manager regarding a resolution to certify the proposed 2017 property tax levy, accepting the proposed budget for 2017 and consenting and approving the 2017 HRA levy. Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I mentioned at the HRA meeting 15 minutes ago that later in the meeting we would be dealing with our preliminary budget and tax levy for the city of Eden Prairie. And it's in September, it's by the end of the month that we need to set, I call it a ceiling for our budget and levy that between now and the end of the year, when you take final action following a public hearing in December on the city budget, you could lower the levy, but you cannot raise it. You also may recall, I think it's at least for the past 5 or 6 years, that the budget that is put together and then presented for preliminary approval is one that we would expect would not change and would stay the same unless there were some unforeseen circumstances. It's not a situation where we set a certain percent or dollar amount and then finalize the budget. Most of the budget has been finalized. And I'm going to share some tax impact information as well that you did not have this summer when you were discussing the budget and workshop. And all that information is part of the packet that provides some detailed background and line items on the budget. But again, the action tonight, and it does not involve a public hearing, it's a passing of a resolution setting the preliminary budget and levy. I do want to talk a little bit about our process. In Eden Prairie, we do a 2-year budget. We obviously adopt the budget annually, and we make tweaks each and every year. But we had a process actually for this budget that started in early 2015. And in early 2015, as will happen again in early 2017, we begin this process with a survey of our residents in terms of service level expectations and ratings of our services. We used some of that detail along with other financial information and strategic planning by the City Council to put together a 2-year budget. So in this case, we're in the second year of a 2-year budget for 2016 and 2017. I think I misspoke earlier. We started in 2016 or 15 for the 16-17 budget. And even though we put together a 2-year budget, there are tweaks along the way that you might not anticipate a year or later that may change slightly with the budget. But we try to build a budget based on the goals that are established. So this 2-year budget and the second year of this budget builds on an enhancement of public safety services. So we put some special attention toward public safety in this 2-year budget, but we also felt it very important to maintain our service levels in all of our other areas as well. There are many examples, and I'll share some of those at the end of the year, where we have been efficient and we've saved money, and we could say that the levy could certainly be as much as 1% or more higher, if not for some of the savings and efficiencies that we found in the last few years. We're also looking at many different innovations that provide an even better level of service without necessarily costing more. So we have a lot of discussions regarding that. Probably new to the last 2-year budget was more attention paid toward building a sense of community, enhancing our community. So we see that a little bit in the capital budget and a little bit in the operating budget. I do say a little bit because it's not a large use of funds for several of our events and some of our placemaking, but that's kind of a newer development. And lastly, we want to be in a positive position compared to many of our peers. And while we're just setting a preliminary budget now, I do know of only one other community of maybe 10 or 15 comparable communities that has a levy the same as ours that we're proposing here for this year. So it's, again, one of the more fiscally prudent budgets and levy increases you're going to see in the entire metro, but one which we think can continue to deliver a high level of service. So if you look at your packet or the report, starting on page 6 and 7 and 8, you'll see that we're proposing a budget that is a 2.7% increase, a very modest increase, and a total tax levy. The levy and budget are two different things. Total levy increase of 2.8%. And the general fund levy is proposed to be at 3%, but with the debt levy being down a little bit, your total levy ends up being 2.8, less than 3%. The update since the summer's presentation and workshop was the proposal to increase the capital improvement levy from $100,000 to $200,000. And at that time, the possibility was that could have pushed the budget of the levy over 3%. But we received some good information on our fiscal disparities distribution, of which you can see we are still the second largest giver to Bloomington. That continues. But that was a little bit more, the increase was a little bit more moderated than last year. So you can see that we're able to increase our capital improvement levy and still have that levy and budget under 3%. So that's the good news. And we also made an adjustment from last year. We put the 2-year budget together to this year to have a 3% increase in wages as opposed to 2.5% without having to raise the levy or the budget as well. We've also had some savings in health insurance that we're able to achieve with this budget that's been updated from the previous year. And the last thing that I would add is, what does this mean for the taxpayer, this proposed budget? It means that the median valued home increased very slightly, residential median valued home. We saw an increase in our total value of property in Eden Prairie by about $300 million. The value of our city is almost $10 billion. It's $9.9 billion. But the median value home only increased about 0.1%. It went from $362,700 to $363,100. So if your home is valued at $363,100, you are in the median in Eden Prairie. And what that means with this preliminary levy and budget is a 0.8%, so not quite 1%, increase in the city taxes, which is $10. So that home that was worth that slightly lesser amount was paying about $1,184 in city taxes, would pay $1,194 in city taxes next year. And our overall rate as a city stays at 32%. It goes from 32.14% to 32.41, and I think you saw from the handout that I have that is in the lower fourth or even the lower fifth of cities of similar size. So we feel that we have a very prudent budget that we have put together, and we don't necessarily see the need for that to change between now and the end of the year, but we will be seeking public comment. We still have 3 to 4 months to the end of the year, and we will have a public hearing on that budget. But tonight we would ask that you approve the resolution setting the preliminary budget and levy, and staff can certainly answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Getchell. Any questions for staff?
Do you want to comment?
Yes, certainly.
I'm very glad that we've been able, with this very prudent budget, to still give our employees a raise equivalent to what other cities or private sector would be doing. And because we have some very hardworking employees, and I'm glad that you've done all the innovations to be able to keep this low. It makes a big difference to this city to spend smart and get everything done and a little bit more and not have the budget go up.
Right.
I don't think every city administration can do this, and I'm glad ours can.
Me too.
And to add the extra $100,000 to the capital improvement budget too.
Yes.
That's
really big.
needed.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Does anybody want to make the motion?
I will.
Sure.
Would move to adopt the resolution that certifies the proposed 2017 property tax levy to be $35,711,841, sets December 6, 2016 as the meeting, which will include discussion of the budget and provide for public comment, and accepts the proposed 2017 budget of $47,130,893 and dollars.
83.
What did I read it wrong? 983. What did I say?
893.
A little reversal on me there. Taught too long, huh? Okay, and consents and approves the HRA tax levy of $200,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That's the end of our agenda as written. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up for the meeting? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All
Second.
in favor? Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.